On today's episode of Off the Record, Marketing Deconstructed, we are actually going to look at some of the new trends coming out on Instagram, and we're going to cross over into some other platforms and talk about trends and analytics.
I don't think that the follower count has been an important thing since the algorithm became
Amazon or anybody's online shop, and you see, tons of images, and you see dimensions, and you see use cases.
It feels like they're trying to combine the Reels tab and the grid layout.
You're scrolling and you're reading the story, but it's the same picture of me with the text over. Hey, have you guys seen the updates on some of the new stuff that's come out on Instagram? And I say come out because I think there's stuff coming out, but there's stuff that I saw that launched over the weekend.
Yeah, there are constantly updates on Instagram.
Yes.
It's just a matter of which one.
Which is why we tell our clients,
Right.
no matter what, be consistent.
Right. So yeah, we have been kind of talking about a variety of the different things that are rolling out. But one of the things that has kind of caught one of the top ones is the carousels, like the additional 10 slides. So now you have a total of 20 slides. And we were kind of going back and forth earlier about, who will this impact most? Is this more of the creative? Is this the videographer? Is this the photographer? Or is this the business? Or is this the, commerce side of things? So, Sean, what do you think? I'm interested to see your opinion.
I think that from a product selling perspective, I think that's helpful, right? I mean, in general, and you go to Amazon or anybody's online shop, and you see, tons of images, and you see dimensions, and you see use cases, and you see it, kind of deconstructed, and you see, just down the list depending on the product. And I think, not that all of that is right for Instagram, but it gives you the opportunity to. Right. So I think from a commerce perspective, it's a lot easier to help the consumer visualize your product in a way that could convince them to make a sale before they even click to anything else, right? Which is, we always say, the fewer clicks the better, right? Attention spans aren't there on social media. So if you can give 10 more visuals that can help someone convince someone to purchase before they even have to make a click, that seems like there's potential there for me. I would think there'd be potential there.
I think that there's potential there, but I also don't know how many people are going to actually spend the time to scroll through 20 slides of carousels. However, if you look at it from Instagram's perspective, the whole goal of these social media platforms is to keep people on the platform for as long as possible. So the longer that you have somebody's attention scrolling through carousels, going to the next one, scrolling through 20 slides, the longer they're staying on the platform, which means that they're going to be able to show their paid ads and their sponsors and all of that to people and have more eyes on that. And so I think there's a lot of different reasons for it. I saw a few this weekend where there were 20 slides and people were testing them out or making fun of them, or there was a lot of different things, and I'm curious to see how many people actually put their eyes on something for that long. But we should try it.
Yeah. Well, and I'm interested to see too, because when you see a carousel post now once and you don't slide, they'll show you it again on the second carousel, like the second image. So I'm like, will they do that 3 or 4 times? Since it's up to 20 slides now.
If they did that, though, that would be good for our social media accounts.
For the actual
because you're actually seeing it more often.
So don't know if that is going to be the case or not, but it could be, instead of if you do one static image, you could now have, if you do a carousel instead, you could have up to 4 times the potential eyeballs on it. Yeah. I don't know. We'll have to see if that's the case or not.
Well, and that's why, I'm not sure that the artistic value, combining those 2 points, which is that, do people want to scroll that long, and what you just mentioned of, yes, that's why I don't know that from the art, the creators, the photographers, just taking a picture of nature or what, I don't know. I think there has to be a purpose for it to make sense for someone to scroll beyond 10.
Well, for me, on the photography side of it, I think of weddings. I mean, you get thousands of photos back, and especially for the photographer side or the bride-to-be, the groom-to-be, being able to post 20 of my personal wedding photos, bet.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm going to do it. I'm going to post as many as possible. So for me, it's personally and on the wedding side of things and the photography creative, absolutely. I think all of those photographers will take advantage of.
But interesting, one of the trends that I've seen, and I don't know, I'm interested to get your opinion on it. One of the trends that I've seen a lot recently is same photo, different words, and the carousel, right? So you're scrolling and you're reading the story, but it's the same picture of me with the text over my face or whatever, right? Or you see the same faceless video, or even, that's real, but even the static image, right? You see the same faceless static image, but with different words. And so I'm wondering how that trend, if that trend is going to keep up, and will people scroll through 20 slides with different text on each of the slides? You could certainly share a lot of features and benefits of a product, though.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, in that case, not even for a product or something, I mean, I guess it is sort of a project, but for a photojournalist, you could have a great photo, and there might only be 2 or 3 photos from that specific moment, but you have a lot to say, and that is an attention capturing way to do it. If you have something posted over it or with it, or you keep scrolling through and get more of the story, that could make that more interesting for people who have photos that, a picture's worth 1,000 words.
Yeah.
Well, keep looking at the photo, and I'm going to give you
1,000 words.
Well, and I hadn't thought about that, but you basically replace the caption with something that's more engaging. It's like a middle tier between video and what we would consider a normal post.
It is, and I've seen those all over, and I thought, wow, this is kind of fun. I only have to take one picture, and I can post it 20,000 times, right, with different words over it.
Yeah, or even if there are multiple photos, just the ability to tell a story that's twice as long using that space. I hadn't thought about that until just now, but that's.
I think there's a lot of different use cases. The question is it going to keep your attention, or are you going to scroll on? I guess it depends on how interested you are in the content.
And I think it's going to depend on, once again, like Cassidy said, that's a great example of when you have a wedding, you do get thousands of photos of every single angle. It gives you an opportunity to pick the best 20, and chances are there's going to be 20 engaging images that fall from there. Yeah. Is your Saturday brunch one of those moments where you're going to get 20 photos that are attention capturing? And so I'm just curious if in a lot of cases it's going to, instead of people having to, when you ask somebody to give a 100-word essay, you have to think hard about every single one of those words, because that's not very long. Mm-hmm. But when you have 20 photo slots, are you going to get a lot less interesting photos and a lot more of almost duplicates and stuff that goes in there? So
I like the idea of that brunch photo, because we could just do the same photo and then have a lot of words about what the mimosas did to us that morning.
but to go back to Meta's or Instagram's parent company, Facebook, I mean, how many times growing up did you see somebody post a photo album that just had 30 photos in it that were almost the exact same, but just slight different, movements in
different
it.
angle or different,
And so, I felt like the nice thing about Instagram was you didn't have that bloat, you didn't have like the repetition because people didn't have the space. It was like when Twitter had only 140 characters, it was concise, it was exactly what you wanted, and you had to be thoughtful about it.
So what's the impact of personal Instagram versus brand Instagram? I mean, because that's kind of what I'm hearing in this. Like, most brands are probably not posting their mimosa brunch or which I get the point.
Yeah.
But like, is there a significant difference in the way that brands utilize it versus the way?
I think the influencer side of things and like the personal brands are going to use it for life events, the weddings, the birthdays, the vacations. And I think the businesses are going to use it to tell the story of their product in a more engaging way other than Reels. Because I think there are a lot of consumers that don't like consuming video. I don't think it's the majority, but I think there are consumers that prefer that static image.
Well, that's interesting because I wonder how long it will take somebody to scroll through those 20 slides, whereas like a reel, right, can't be more than, is it a minute? Like 60 seconds, I think. You don't want your reels more than that. Now, obviously, you want shorter content even like that to get the attention. But how long is it going to take somebody to scroll through 20 slides? Keeping that attention.
So let me ask you, I'm your friend, right? Yeah. You post 20 reels or 20 images of your wedding. Well, I know you, or maybe I was at the wedding. Maybe I couldn't make it for whatever reason. I'm probably more likely to scroll through those 20 because of the experience of it, right? Absolutely. Now, me as the same individual, if whatever brand, right, whatever local restaurant in Indianapolis, if they post 20 of what you're suggesting, right, it's like an image and they're trying to tell a story, maybe they've got their fall menu, whatever it is, even if I like the restaurant, do I care enough about their new 20 items
to keep going?
Yeah.
I don't know. And actually I was thinking about that from the standpoint of stories, because you can post a lot of stories on your feed, and if you look at the people that are watching your stories, you see the same people maybe look at your first 1, 2, 3. They might go on if they're interested in what you're posting, but at some point that viewership of all the stories that you have posted, it waned. And so I'm wondering if we'll have that same experience with these 20 carousels. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Now, take these carousels and don't make them square anymore, right? And we go to the portrait aspect, because that's one of the things that Instagram is testing now too. And I've seen it on some feeds. I haven't seen it on all feeds. I think it's being rolled out really slowly. But Adam Mosseri was talking about that they are slowly moving away from that 1080 by 1080 square post to, I think it's like a 4:3 ratio image.
Somewhere in there.
So that it's more of a portrait look, similar to what we see on the Reels feed, and that they're moving to that type of a feed for our regular static images, the regular feed, not just the Reel feed. And I think that's going to be really interesting for those people that have a lot of images that they've been sharing on Instagram. Now, Adam said the reason that they're doing that is because of when they started Instagram, it was square, and more creators were creating images or imagery that was more square, and they were putting it out there. And they're making this shift because of the way that more creators are creating content in today's world. And so I'm interested to see how that would go over, because it's not going to be quite as neat, concise.
You're not going to have that 9 grid when you go to people's profiles.
Right.
So like people aren't going to focus on creating that perfectly aesthetic 9 grid. It's now going to be a 6 grid. Personally, I hate it so far because it's uneven, and to me, it was not because of that. I feel like it's fully because of attention spans. They've seen the shift from reels being, here taking up the full screen, where squares, you can get almost 2 posts. Like 2 posts for sure when you do like the landscape, and then a post and a half when you've got the square, and then when you have a portrait, you're almost covering the entire screen. And I think that's fully because of attention span.
So interesting on that point too is that just today they were talking about, there was a question asked about how come we can't have different aspect ratios on our carousels. And they're actually testing that so that they're actually looking at letterboxing your images so that when you're scrolling through, that you could have a square image and you could have a portrait image in the same carousel. You just might see a little bit of space around your images versus it taking up the whole screen, so that they can actually do that, where you can have different aspect ratios posted. That's in like really early testing right now.
What would be the benefit of having different size images in the same carousel?
Photographers.
To be able to do, because, well, you can't do horizontal anyway.
Because so many photographers are creating like their own, like in Canva or Adobe, like where you've got a normal square photo and then you have like half of a photo. So then it's almost like a arrow, like swipe to see more concept. But, back to my wedding photos, I've got so many portrait, square, and landscape. And so now if I post the portrait, which I like to do as my first image because it takes up the most space on the feed, but then if I have a really, really good landscape one, then I have to crop it and it doesn't look good anymore. Right. So then I just opt to not post it. So like that works perfectly for photographer.
Would you get the actual, I don't know, like if they letterbox it, and to that point, Sean, it could do landscape, right? If they're letterboxing it, it doesn't just have to be portrait, square, it could also be landscape.
Yeah.
But then does it actually give you the view that you want? Because going back to when Instagram started, right?
Yeah.
When Instagram started, right, it was all about the photo, and that was what was capturing people's attention. With nothing on the side, it was the whole square, it was taking up, the space on the grid. So I think that's going to be interesting. I don't know that they're testing that. They're testing how it's going to work, how it gets automated, how you can actually in platform put all your pictures in, and then it would actually create what the letterboxing around each image would look like. So there's a lot to come on that, but it is something that they're in tests with. So obviously they're looking at different ways that you can post your images on the platform. So
do you think that it expands, it allows for more creativity?
Which part?
The different sizes?
I think so. I think that like being able to display your work as intended. I don't think that piece affects anyone. I think it's a useful tool for creators to use if they want it, but it's not something that's going to alter strategy. I think the 6 grid versus the 9 grid is going to alter strategy. Yeah. I think the way that you see the portrait on a grid layout on a profile is going to alter the consumer's experience, and we'll see. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing yet. I personally don't love it, but change is hard, so we'll see.
I think what's so fascinating about this conversation, and you kind of did it there, where like my mind was still in the consumer mode, or like the individual mode, and you mentioned the consumer, which puts you back in brand mode. So like I think it's interesting the differences in how we think that this will impact your personal page versus your business page, or my personal page versus my whatever, for individuals, right? Like that the difference in the way that that our followers, our network, or our community, whatever, will engage seem to be stark.
Yes.
whether you're a business or an individual.
And to me, it feels like they're trying to combine the Reels tab and the grid layout. Because, you've got the 3 tiers now, where it used to be IGTV and Reels. Now it's just Reels. Right. So it feels like they're trying to combine that, Adam has said multiple times, head of Instagram, like, we're not shying away from short form video. So this could be that next stepping stone towards that. I don't know.
But we can already see Reels in our regular feed. Right? So sometimes I wonder, do we actually need the Reels?
The tab itself.
Right. Yeah. Except that if you're actually only looking to look at video, or you're trying to go and find something that you saw somebody post or whatever, and it's a reel, you can go and do that. So maybe from an indexing standpoint, I think what's going to be interesting is that we're taking so many more photos. Well, we are. How we take photos has changed, right? Most people are taking photos in their phone now. The quality is so good. Like, who needs that expensive camera when you can do everything in your phone? But I'm also wondering if it's going to allow more people to post right away versus having to go in and edit down to that square, or find the perfect part of that picture that I want to do, where they can just point, shoot, upload, versus going through that editing step that sometimes maybe people don't want to do. I don't know. That might be kind of a far-fetched thing, but I'm just thinking about older adults too, or
I'm not, in my personal life, I'm not a big social media user, right? And so I think, like, the first thing that comes to mind in my head is is the average person who's posting about their mimosa at lunch actually concerned about the time it takes to crop the photo in the app natively? And I don't know, because like I said, I don't do that. So I think that maybe the
time from photo to posting gets shortened if you don't have to edit or crop it.
And maybe it's like that middle influencer where, like, we're not talking about Mr. Beast, but we're not talking about me. It's like that kind of, they probably have a job or whatever, but they're, for whatever reason, have a large following based on like, maybe for them, there is.
And they don't really care about what the grid looks like or how everything lays out. They just want to put their.
Well, they probably do, but for me, it's for that person that it kind of saves some steps, right? Because if you don't, if the product is better, landscape, horizontal, or whatever, and now you don't have to worry about it, but there's structure in place to support that, then maybe it does make your life easier, or
Yeah, I don't know. Be interesting to see. I always think it's interesting to see all these new things coming out. Instagram's not the only platform either. It just seems like we do a lot more posting on Instagram for a lot of our clients, because that's where their people hang out.
Well, and Facebook Meta, for both Facebook and Instagram, really, they just rolled out some of the new tracking pieces, right, as well. And I think, talking about Instagram specifically, I think it's interesting that they would go, the views is the new. They kind of gotten rid of impressions, and I think they've kind of gotten rid of reach as well. But real views, video views, impressions, like, it's all just views now, which almost. I'll be interested to see it from a tracking perspective, because, if we wanted to analyze the difference between our video content and our photography content, can we do that now? And I don't know. I have not seen the changes on the back end yet. So
it hasn't uploaded on any of the accounts for me either yet. So, like, it's still impressions versus reach. But from the client or, like, local business owner, I feel like that is much easier to understand, because, when we would have to explain impressions versus reach versus engagement versus.
We were just doing that on a call the other day. Yeah.
It's complicated, like, we live in it every day. So it's, our norm. But when you're a business owner and you're the CEO, the CFO, the COO, like, you're wearing all these different hats, like, understanding Instagram reach, just make me money, like, I don't care. But I think that views language makes it easier for the average consumer to understand. But I'm interested to see that too, because it's like, because, versus a carousel versus a static image versus a reel, it's all views. So what are we going to be able to see the contrast between all three of them?
Well, and like I'm the data person, right? And if you haven't been able to tell throughout this conversation, I'm the grumpy old man of the group, right? So like for me, change is scary, you know.
You said it.
No, I live it, right? Like I'm fine. But so like in my head, from the data standpoint, I'm sitting here going like I actually liked that you had those differences. I actually liked that within Meta you kind of had the views for videos versus, you know, you could kind of easily filter through that, and especially if you're going to make changes to the structure of content, I would think more data would be better for both the users and Instagram itself or brands or whatever to be able to quickly decipher what content is performing better, worse, you know, how it's structured differently. So it feels backwards to me a little bit to roll out these significant changes and then remove some of the data parts of it.
But is that just kind of proving like my theory of them wanting to move solely to short form video? Like if they could potentially be like, make video content, you're only going to have views to see, you know, make video content, you're only going to have one grid now and it looks best when it's video. Yeah. So it's like, are they trying to push that without saying that? I mean, they've said they're pushing it, but like, are they pushing it harder than what they're telling us? I don't know.
Slowly phasing it, right? Yes. Like moving from square to portrait, and then moving from portrait with combination of your reels. Then are they going to phase out the reels tab, and then everything's going to be on one feed? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see.
I mean, they're just following the user trends, right?
Absolutely.
Like it's not. I don't think it's like some conspiracy theory type thing.
No, that's all I'm trying to say.
But I mean, if that's what users are doing, then why not? And I mean, we were just having a conversation today about the XTV thing, and you know, Elon Musk has said multiple times that Twitter is a video, or X, sorry Elon.
Formerly known as.
Yeah, the platform formerly known as Twitter. Yeah, I mean, he said multiple times that they're a video app. And if X is a video app, what is Instagram? You know, so yeah, it's just 100. I think it's following the user trends, which we would advise anyone to do in their own business anyway.
You know, one of the things I was thinking about all of these changes with Instagram and how they're tracking data with the views. We just had this conversation actually this morning when we were talking through some strategy for a client about how Cassidy has been working on their social media, and the increase across all of the different data that we've seen has been phenomenal, like, you know, 1,000%, and I am not exaggerating, right, on what we've seen on the in her data. But what I was asking is, since views are such a thing, and I feel like followers have come down, right? Like when Instagram first started, it was like, oh, how many millions of followers can I get? And that was the thing, like, let's get as many followers so I can have that number on my profile, right? And then that's kind of come down, and lately it's more like, how many followers do you have that are engaged? But looking at this particular client's data, her views are like skyrocketed, and she doesn't have that many followers. So then my question is, do we even care about followers anymore? Or are they getting the views? And if they want to know more, they're just going to your profile or your call to action and whatever it is that they're watching, and making the decision to react based on, you know, that call to action, or go visit your profile link in terms of Instagram, right? And then not actually follow, right? Because I'm going to make that connection in some way, shape, or form. So I'm actually really curious about how those views are going to impact followers. And I'm obviously getting reach with the people that are actually looking at my stuff, right? My views are skyrocketed. My followers are the same. But I can't have that much of an increase in views with, you know, my followers at the same level. So I'm just kind of curious about if that's going to take the whole following thing away, and people are just going to be like, it's more going to be like TV, right? Like I turn it on and
I really don't think that a follower count has been an important thing since the algorithm became a much bigger deal for Meta, because now I have people that I see daily, hourly, like their skits or their videos on my Instagram feed. I've never followed them. All I've done is see them and I watch their video to completion, and then I see more of them. I don't have to follow them. They take that step out of it because they're like, even if you're not taking the step to like them, you're taking the step to watch them. So I know what you like. So at that point, it doesn't matter. They're getting the views, and that's what's most important for them at the end. Because if I follow somebody but I never watch any of their content, that's a useless follow.
Yes.
Even if I'm active on Instagram, I'm an inactive follower for them. So I think for a while they've been trying to push away from that, and it's just not necessary. It's an extra step.
I would much rather have somebody be engaged with my content and comment on my content than be a number on my follower screen, number.
If it wasn't already dead, TikTok killed that.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's the premise of TikTok. I mean, that's what TikTok is based off of. We were just talking, the three of us were talking the other day, and so someone was making a joke about MySpace, right? And like the 5, you have your top friends or whatever, right? Like that. I don't even want to guess how many friendships that broke up in 2005, right? Like, your top followers and how many and all that. And they didn't even have MySpace, which was the funny part, right? Like they didn't,
You can add music to your profile now on Instagram.
That's what brought it up.
Taking us back.
Yes, that's what brought it up.
Another update.
Yeah. But I mean, 20 years ago, that number was super important, right? And you had to be everybody's friend. But also in the feeds, everything was chronological, right? So like it didn't matter who you were friends with. It just mattered what they posted, and then they were going to see it, and you were going to see what was posted at 2:02, and then 2:04, and then 2:03.
Right.
I think I went backwards there, but you know what I mean.
Well, you know what? The other part of this, I've been doing a lot of work on LinkedIn, and
Can
with
I make a note on
LinkedIn.
that?
Yeah, do it.
Okay.
Do it.
Sorry, I was like waiting.
I'm sorry. I can't see you.
Oh, you're good. I think the most important part of this conversation is noting that every metric on social media is a vanity metric until you put strategy behind it. Mm-hmm. Like followers, if that's your goal, let's go after it. That's going to be your call to action. That's going to be like our main strategy. But if you don't care about followers and you want sales, screw talking about followers. Screw telling your potential clientele to follow you. Tell them to link in bio. Tell them to comment here. We'll send you the link directly. Comment here. Let's talk about how I can service you. Because that's the whole point. Like what are we trying to get out of these social media channels? Because at the end of the day, like they're trying to work for you. Like they're trying to give you this organic reach. But if you don't know why you're using them, it doesn't matter.
That's a soundbite we just put out to get people to listen to this podcast,
Yeah.
right? Anyway, you go. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say from LinkedIn, on LinkedIn, I've been doing a lot of work lately on LinkedIn, and because their organic reach has been through the roof right now. And so I think it's a good platform to get on if you're not on it. But one of the things that LinkedIn does that's different, right, is that you can follow somebody. So if I'm interested in your content, or I want to learn more about what you have to say, or you're putting out amazing articles that help me in my everyday, or I just am interested in all of the stuff that you have going on, I can follow you, right? But I can also connect with you, and I can ask to connect with you. I can ask to not just be a follower, but actually want to build a relationship or make a connection with you, which is a little bit different than some of the other platforms, right? Because you can't, if you're following, you're following. You're not actually, you may or may not be engaging. On LinkedIn, if you're following, and you're getting updates about what this person's posting, but you're not in a real relationship with them until you actually are asking for that connection piece. So I think that's another reason or another way to think about, like, on the meta platforms, how important really are those followers until you actually start making those connections and engagement.
Well, and on that client that we've seen incredible views on this past month, for me, that tells me the content's good, the content's there, but what do we want those viewers to do? It was a new account, so like that last month, like we were really trying to kind of gauge where her followers were, where her audience wanted us to go, because I think that's important to look at those top performing posts to see what is performing the best and what are they actually, not me, like not us, not our client, but like what does the audience actually want to see more of, so we can take that, promote that more next month, but also let's test, let's iterate that type of content and also kind of tweak that call to action, because right now we weren't getting a lot of clicks, we weren't getting a lot of follows, and I think that's important to note. Yes, we got the viewership, now what do we want to do with it?
Right. Mm-hmm. Yep, I think that's really important. So people need to think about that. We need to express that to our clients who are so worried about how many people are following it, how many people are on my Facebook page, how many people are looking at my stuff, right? Well, I'd rather have people looking at my stuff and taking action when it's something that interests them than just sitting as a number on my profile. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Off the Record Marketing Deconstructed. If you would like more information about our team, you can follow us on social media at 5 and Rise, or you can visit our website at 5andrise.com. We invite you to share, subscribe, and leave us a review, and tune in to our next episode.